and this education in the present status has to be considered not nation-centric, because if you ask any child where is Washington, he will be able to tell you. And where is Niagara Falls, he will be able to tell you. But you ask or her where is Globe Falls, she will not be able to tell you. So, any education has to be nation-centric, because yesterday Cruz was telling that the fishermen of his locality had the native wisdom to teach anybody about their native sea and their surroundings and about the shore and about anything about that area. And he was very, very apologetic about the government and about the people around, that nobody is interested to ask that fisherman as to what he knows about that area. And we talk and we learn about all these special areas from the books which are written by others who are not knowing about that particular area. Now, one more thing I want to inform at this present situation is about the Dabbawalas of Mumbai. The Dabbawalas of Mumbai have been appreciated by the world over. Even Prince Charles paid a visit to them and he invited them to their marriage. And they have acquired what is known as success in the quality service. To compare what is success, you must know that the recent God particle, Professor Higgs told that they have acquired 5S, which is one stop less than 6S. So you can imagine the Dabbawalas are creating history in the world, and I don't know how many of you may know about those Dabbawalas. So, like this, Prof.Kanagasabapathy has done a lot of studies about cluster and clusters in industries. He is an eminent scholar, he is an academician, he is a professor, and I have known him for the past 8 years, from the first time I met him in Ettimund. He is the director of the Institute of Urban Studies and is also director of the Center for Indian Economic and Cultural Studies. Now I request Professor Kanagasabapathy to take the floor.
Respected Professor Ramamurthy, elders, my dear brothers and sisters, I am extremely happy to be here to share with you some of the thoughts on making education nation-centric. I want students to please keep quiet. We all know that India is a great civilization. Civilization with thousands of years of antiquity. The civilization could not have functioned so long without fundamentals, without social fundamentals, without economic fundamentals, without the necessary infrastructure. So the fundamentals of the country has been provided by the society for thousands of years here. So education always remained nation-centric in the earlier days. We all know that India contributed in diverse fields. It's not just philosophy or religion, it's mathematics, medicine, chemistry, physics. So whichever field you take, India's contribution has remained enormous in the last 4,000, 5,000 years. That is why Einstein said, for example, in the case of mathematics, if Indians had not invented zero, then we would not have achieved so much in science in terms of development, etc. So this is mathematics. Similarly, in the case of medicine, 2,600 years back, we had books on medicine, on plastic surgery. Very recently, about 15 days back, Pondicherry University professors have confirmed that in Tamil Nadu, near Tirupur, in a place called Kodumanal, they have confirmed that there was a very powerful, internationally known industrial cluster called Kodumanal. This Kodumanal was functioning during 2400 BCE, before Common Era, 2400 years back. That was a very popular, internationally known steel making center. So the best of steels were going from this place to other countries. You know, whatever the things used in Egypt, in countries of the West, they all went from here. So the best of steels were made here, right here in Tamil Nadu, 2400 years back. So technology was in use, very high technology was in use in those days. So whether you take any field, so much knowledge was available here. The reason being, education was always connected to the local society, to the national perspectives. If you see from the economic point of view, we all know that Arthashastra was the first book written on economic and political history in the whole world. The author of Arthashastra, Kauntilya, quotes more than 120 authors before him, more than 120 authors, saying that economics as a subject was in usage at least some 300, 400 years before him, as far as he knew. So that means even when we take that statement, economics as a subject must have been there in use 2600, 700 years back. Now you can understand the importance of this knowledge of our people. If you take the industries of those days, you know, whether it is a small scale industry or cottage industry, all those industries were organized in the form of guilds, you know, like Chamber of Commerce today. It's not a correct translation, a crude form. So people join together, and then people in similar business or same business join together and then function as a group. They were called guilds. There were different names also. So these guilds were giving education, training to the youngsters, so that the profession continues generations. So, for example, even in the case of pot making, for making pots, there were guilds, and these guilds were giving training to our people. So that is how industrial training was given to our people. As a result, we remained as pioneers in many industrial and business activities. So always the education was related to the local needs, and if you take all the local needs into consideration, then that becomes the national needs. So education was nation-centric in those days. So main reason for Indian economy, India as a nation achieving so much in different fields is the education being relevant to the society, being relevant to the nation. But unfortunately, as all of us know, this system got broke down when the Macaulay system was introduced about 180 years back in the 1830s. As a result, now there is a huge gap between the education and the society and the nation, education and the industry. We all teach management subjects. We come from these technology institutions, and we don't relate the current problems in the society, in the business, in the industry to the education field, because the syllabuses that we follow, the course contents that we adopt are totally different from the industrial needs, the societal needs. This is the problem. I always give this example. I am a finance teacher. If you take the finance theories or for that matter any management theory or business theory, most of the theories, almost all the theories that we follow are Western, mostly American, to an extent some other countries. So, most of the theories have failed in their own birthplaces, but even then we follow it. I give this example. In 1997, two people got Nobel Prize. And in fact, for about 15 years, from the 1980s till 1997, Nobel Prizes in economics were given to finance people only. And there are two people who studied the financial market, especially stock markets. So in those days when we were all doing research, every year we used to bet among ourselves, this year who will get Nobel Prize. Because that was the situation. Every year prizes were given to only those people who studied stock markets. So in 1997, similarly, two people got Nobel Prize for one of their theories. It's called Black-Scholes model, named after two persons, Professor Black and Scholes. So both of them got Nobel Prize in those days in terms of rupees 3 crore each. But unlike their predecessors, they did not keep quiet with that money. They thought when the whole world is using our theory, because their theory was developed in the 1980s, when the whole world is using our theory and making money, why should we keep quiet? Let us resign our university positions and then go and practice our own theory for which we have got Nobel Prize, so that we can get billions of dollars as return. So they resigned their jobs, they joined a company promoted by management professors and economists in 1996-97. That company's name was Long-Term Capital Management. In short, it was called as LTCM. These people joined that company as advisors. And a company which was promoted by economists and management professors, two of the Nobel laureates joining that company as full-time advisors. So there was a lot of expectation in the whole market. I remember some of the executives in the investment companies, they resigned their jobs to join this particular company, because for the first time so many professors are involved, Nobel laureates are advising. So this company should be able to give very high returns. So people resigned their company and joined this in junior positions, and lot of expectation was there. In 1998, when the results for the company, for first year results came, the result proved to be disastrous for the industry. The company had lost 100 times of its investment in just 1 year. In fact, less than 1 year. The entire Wall Street, the stock market of America, went into a tailspin. Prices came down. Finally, the Federal Reserve Bank, central bank of the country, had to intervene. It had to invest so much money to stop its downslide. Because there were huge expectations from people, and when the company finally failed, it affected the entire stock market. These two professors, they almost became bankrupt. So they finally came to the conclusion that this remaining in the market will not be fruitful to us. Let us go back and then continue our profession of teaching. So they went back and then they started teaching. In fact, one of them is still teaching. He is in his 70s. And the funniest part of the story is, this theory is being taught throughout the world even today in all business schools, in all management institutions. You take our own Oxford Institute management students, they will be studying, they select finance as an elective subject. They will be studying this Black-Scholes model. But this model failed 15 years back. In fact, the very authors of this model, the Nobel laureate, they themselves tried to practice it and then ultimately failed. But this is the theory that we are teaching to our students. And this is just one example that I am giving. As a finance teacher, I can give many examples. This is just one example I am giving. There is so much disconnect between what we teach in the classroom and what is being practiced in the market. What is being happening in the society, in the country. So So this is the biggest problem today. The education sector is not able to connect itself with the society, with the nation. And this is not a small issue, this is the most serious issue. And this is not just in finance subject alone, it is there in the marketing subject, it is there in the entrepreneurship subject, and it is not in management subject alone, it is there in economics, in all social, economic, business disciplines. So this is the biggest problem. So every year we are producing hundreds of thousands, lakhs of students now. If you take management students alone, lakhs of students are coming out of the Indian business schools today. We are the highest MBA graduates producing country in the world today. But what is the result? There is huge disconnect. So education has become irrelevant to the society. So that is the reason why in 2001, the Swadeshi movement, we decided to form an organization called the Swadeshi Academic Council. The main idea behind the Swadeshi Academic Council is to re-establish the connection between the educational institutions and the society. Whatever students study, it should be relevant to them, it should be helpful to them, it should be helpful to the organizations which they study, it should be ultimately helpful to the local industries and the nation as a whole. So this is how we started our work in 2001, and the studies which we have been conducting over the years have been proving to be very useful, not just for us, but for local industries, local communities, and ultimately to the nation also. So I will share a few experiences with you so that you can think along these lines and then try to conduct studies in such a way that whenever you undertake studies in future, it will be useful to you, useful to the society, useful to the nation. It is very easy. In our experience, we have seen this. As I said, we are all under the impression, whether we take business, whether we take management aspects, whether we take economics, we are all under the impression of the textbooks, of the Western theories. But in practice, it is not like that. You know, even after 64 years of independence, in spite of the wrong policies of the government, policies of the government have remained either leftist or rightist. Either it was earlier for about 30 years, we followed the socialistic policies. Then after that, from 1990s onwards, the globalization policies. Both policies are not exactly suitable to us. But in spite of it, Professor explained to us this morning as to how Indian economy is having very serious problems. But in spite of it, India is emerging as a nation. On the one side, we have very serious problems. On the other side, India is emerging as a nation. What is the reason for it? Is it due to the government? Is it due to the economic policies? Is it due to the subjects that we teach in classrooms? No. It is due to the culture of this country. It is due to the fundamentals of this country. Families, societies, communities as a system, the practices of this country. So this we don't study in our textbooks. So when you go and study this, you will be able to understand this very, very easily. If you take my own case, I come from a family which is engaged in business. But I never realized the importance of the education till I started studying this particular aspect from the local perspectives. I come from a place which is very near to Coimbatore. It's called Somanur. In our area, we have these power loom industries. This power loom industries is almost like earlier it developed like a cottage industry, and today in the Somanur cluster area, there are more than 250,000 power looms. About 10% of India's power loom cloth production takes place there. 10% of power loom cloth production. And who started this? All ordinary people. All people from agricultural families. So it is the people from agricultural families who went into businesses some 30 years back, and today they have emerged very, very successful. Do they have this modern education? No, almost nil. The first generation entrepreneurs, they don't have modern education at all. But in spite of it, they have succeeded. They are succeeding today also. So the fundamentals of Indian business, Indian economy is something different from whatever we study in our classroom. In the last 60 years, whatever development that has taken place is mostly due to the efforts of our own people in our own ways. In our own ways, whether you take the financing methods, whether you take the entrepreneurial methods, or it is due to our native methods. This morning, Mr. Sagar Swami was beautifully explaining about the problems in retail industry. Then later when I was discussing with him, I was telling him about this particular aspect, which we studied about 7, 8 years back. So the entire money for that particular retail trade, now retail trade is dominated by a particular community from southern Tamil Nadu. The entire money comes through a mechanism called Mahamai system. Some of you might have heard about it. This Mahamai system. As per the Mahamai system, the businessman, whether he is big or small, he has to contribute a fixed percentage to the common fund, common pool of fund, wherever he is, whether he is in his place or outside his place. So that Mahamai fund every year gets increased. As a result, after 5 years, after 10 years, if you see, there will be lakhs of rupees, crores of rupees in each and every village. And through this common fund, the other entrepreneurs can develop. So for money, they need not go outside. They need not even go to bank. Because for any business, finance is the lifeblood. We say finance is the lifeblood of business in our text, classrooms. So finance is the most important aspect. So these people, they need not go outside. They get funds from their own people. And this kind of system is there among many communities in India. It is there among many communities in India. When we went and studied the diamond exporters in Gujarat and Ahmedabad about 6, 7, 8 years back, diamond industry is one of the most important industries in India. And even at the international level, diamond industry is dominated by Indians. About 70% of the international diamond trade takes place through Indians. There is a place called Antwerp city in a country called Belgium. That is the international diamond capital. There are about 300 Indian families, and this is 300 families decide the prices. Today Dr. Vadivelu was explaining how farmers are deciding prices. So our people, they are all sitting in Antwerp and deciding the prices. And a majority of these people are farmers' sons of Patels from a very ordinary families from Saurashtra. It is they who are dominating the business at the international level today. So how do they mobilize funds? In fact, we contacted 35 exporters, as I told you about 6, 7 years back, 35 top exporters. And when we asked them, how did you mobilize your funds for your initial capital? Because at the initial level, when you want to make investments, because people are uneducated or less educated, banks won't give funds that easily. Banks will not give. Banks will give funds only on the basis of qualifications, degrees, backgrounds, connections, etc. Otherwise, they normally don't give. So these uneducated people, where will they go for funds? And in India, they mobilize funds from their own communities. In this particular case, even I myself, I was surprised because 89% of the exporters said they mobilized more than 20% of their initial investment from their villages and local community. So it is the local communities that give funds to these people. In fact, one of the exporters was explaining to us in detail, sir, we come to Surat or Ahmedabad from our places. These people are from very Dry areas, drought-prone areas. There is a region called Saurashtra, which lacks rain every year. There will not be enough rain. And today, most of the businessmen, most of the exporters are from this particular region. They said, sir, we come to Surat, Ahmedabad, we learn business here for 5 years, 6 years as ordinary workers, and then we go back to our village and then we will make announcement. See, I am going to start my own business as I have already learned the techniques. Then the entire village give funds to us. Some will give 5,000, some will give 10,000, some will give 25,000, and this is how we generate funds. So they said 89% of them, this particular study showed us that 89% of the exporters mobilized their funds through their own community network. So we do not know about it. We normally in finance classes, whenever we teach, we tell them, in India, only 40% of the people, now 60% of the people have banking habits. So 40% of the people don't bank. So unless we make them to bank, this country will not develop. But we do not know, outside the banking system, there is an already traditional system which exists that generates funds on its own. We do not know that. In 2001, World Bank's World Development Report, every year this World Bank publishes a report called World Development Report. That report says as to how Tirupur had emerged as an internationally successful business center. It says that there is textile industry in Switzerland, there is textile industry in Italy. But how Tirupur has emerged very successful? In fact, this report itself is based on a study conducted by professors from America. They came here to Tirupur and then they spent about 10 months, they conducted a study. Based on the study, they published this particular report. They said that in Tirupur, whenever people want funds for working capital, first I told you about initial capital, now working capital. Once they started the company, they want additional funds. So where will they go? Suddenly, in the export business, suddenly you may get orders. Then immediately you have to start the work. Within 2 months you have to finish it and then send it. Time is very, very important. So suddenly there will be need for funds. Maybe some 50 lakhs, even 10 crores, 20 crores. So where will they go? The first person they approach is their own relatives or friends. And in most of the cases, they oblige, they get funds, especially lakhs of rupees and few crores. They will collect it from their own friends and relatives very easily. And then they will return the money after 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, many times without interest, sometimes less rate of interest. Because after 3 months, if your cousin or your friend needs funds, you will do the same thing, you will return it. So this is how they do it. As a result, they say, in any business, cost of capital is very important and it is the major cost. But in Tirupur, they said, there is almost nil cost of capital because you borrow funds at nil rates or very less rate. As a result, cost of capital is less. When cost of capital is less, your cost of production comes less. And you fix a lesser sales price because you can fix lesser sales price. You can afford to fix it because your cost of capital is less. So because sale price is less, it is very easily sold in international market. So they said because cost of capital is less, cost of sale is less, sale price is less, so Tirupur people are easily selling in international market. And why this cost of capital is less? Because this society functions on the basis of social capital. Dr. Radivelu was telling us, this is a society based on relationships. When you want to borrow money, when you want help from your relatives, friends, neighbors, you get it very easily. So that is the reason why borrowings takes place very easily in this society. But in the Western societies, in countries, Western countries, a country like America, for example, there the transaction cost is 14%. If you want to borrow 1,000 rupees, you need to spend 14 rupees. You need to have a lawyer, you have to write it in document, and then get witnesses, and this is how arrangements are made. But here no arrangement may be necessary because it takes place on the basis of faith. So that is why this report said the Tirupur people, exporters, are able to succeed in the international market because of their social capital. And this social capital is prevalent not just in Tirupur, even though they have quoted only Tirupur, it is there throughout the country. In fact, in our Swadeshi Academic Council, the first study we made was in Karur. You know, Karur is another important place in business center in Tamil Nadu. At that time, Karur's financial requirements for their textile market was 2,400 crores. You know, today, Karur's turnover, export turnover will be about 400 crores or so today. They make this screens, tablecloths, etc. and they are exporting throughout the world. They are well known for these kind of products. They are exporting throughout the world, including Africa, all parts of the world. And in 2001, when we started this study, their funds requirement was 2,400 crores. And surprisingly, you know, there were 52 bank branches in that place, Karur. 52 bank branches. And headquarters of two nationalized banks, Karur Vaisya Bank, Lakshmi Vilas Bank. In fact, both the banks were promoted by Karur people themselves, some 90 years back, 100 years back. But in spite of it, 2/3 of financial requirements, funds requirements of these Karur exporters, homemade textile exporters, they did not mobilize it from banks, they mobilized it from the local financiers. Who are these local financiers? People from their own community, from the local community. There, 3 or 4 people join together, promote a finance entity. They are all friends or relatives, they promote an entity. And whenever the textile people, they need funds urgently, they don't go to the bank, they go to these finance entities. So we asked them, why are you doing this? They said, sir, if we go to banks, and we have to follow all the rules, regulations, which may be very difficult for us. You know, they need us to produce documents, they need us to go through all formalities, which may take 1 week, 10 days. We are all exporters, we have to immediately start the work, so that, you know, we will be able to finish the work in time. So for us, this finance entity is the best alternative. We make a call now, immediately. They will ask us, how much you want now, today? If we say 25 lakhs you give now, after 15 days you give another 75 lakhs, no problem, 25 lakhs will come within half an hour. So this is how the finance entities help us. No documents necessary, no pledging, nothing is necessary. But interest rates are high. They said, no problem for us, we are ready to pay high interest rates, because what we need is, we need money today so that we can start our work. And this is how business has been going on there for many years. They said, sir, in 2001 they said, during the last 20 years, we never changed borrowing rates and then lending rates. Reserve Bank of India announces borrowing lending rates once in a quarter, once in 3 months. But there they follow different kind of rates and for borrowing and lending, and they don't change it. So parallelly, there is a system that is functioning within the country based on the aspirations and local needs of the people. When we asked them, they said, because it is a relation-based society, there is no failure. In 99% of the cases, there is no failure, sir. Even if somebody fails, let us say a borrower fails to repay the money, then, you know, there will be a person among the partners who will remain as a guarantor to that borrower. The guarantor will repay the money to the company. So as a result, there is no loss to the company. And this is how our business clusters function. So based on faith and goodwill of the people, even the finance business is being conducted in India. So this is how, as I told you, in the case of retail trade, in the case of diamond trade, in the case of textile trade in Karur, everywhere. So whether it is for initial capital, whether it is for working capital requirements, or whether it is for export business, so people follow the local mechanism. And we don't know anything about it. And this is not just there in the local business alone. If you take, for example, the Nadar community of the South Tamil Nadu, which is engaged in this retail trade, they have entered into other businesses also. They have a bank called the Tamil Nadu Mercantile Bank, which is one of the most profitable banks in India. We may not be knowing this. The total capital of the bank even today is just 28 lakhs. But last year, its profits was about 150 crores, more than 150 crores. And if you take the reserves of that company, it's about 1,000 crores or so. 28 lakh capital, 100 crores profit. Where can you see this kind of a company? One of the most profitable banks. Last year, they declared 900% dividend. Year before that, they declared about 800% dividend. This is a company, a banking company promoted by people who come from ordinary families. They are not MBAs like us. They are not investment analysts. They do not know nothing about modern finance, but it is they who are succeeding. So what we require is common sense. What we require is native intelligence, and it is this native intelligence which is helping our country to grow economically. And unfortunately, we are not studying anything about it. So this is the problem with us. This is what I wanted to highlight. And this is what in Swadeshi Academic Council, now renamed as Center for Indian Economic and Culture Studies, we are trying to do. So in each and every institution at the college level, a few of you can join together along with one or two professors and then establish a unit here in each college. You start studying about the local problems, local industries. You will get to know what is the problem of your people. Very easily you can help them. You can help them to find out solutions. I give one example. In Ooty, about 9 years back, 2002-2003, there was a very serious problem. Tea leaf prices were coming down. Whereas in the market, final tea prices were going up. But for the farmers, leaf tea prices were going down. And there was a commission appointed by the Swadeshi Jagran Manch under the chairmanship of Dr. Abraham Varghese. He visited Coimbatore to interact with the people from small scale industries and farmers. I remember I was there as the local representative along with Dr. Abraham Varghese. When we were listening to people from the Ooty farmers, one of the farmers cried. He came in suits. Ooty people, they come always in tie and suits. He cried, an elderly person. He said, "Sir, for the last 3-4 years, prices are continuously declining. If it remains like that, then we will be no longer in farming. We have to come out of Ooty and then start working somewhere else in different capacities as workers, as employees." So we decided to undertake a study, and then Gurumurthy ji came there. We all went there to Ooty to meet the farmers, and then we met some of them. We met the farmers, we met the factory owners, etc. When we talked to them, we came to know the main problem of the Ooty tea industry was, ultimately the prices were decided by one company. That is multinational company, Hindustan Lever. That company was deciding the price. It should pay for the tea leaf sold by the farmers. So they were decreasing the prices. Because as Mr. Swami was explaining this morning, only 1%, one buyer, so many sellers, all small farmers. So he was dictating the price. So we made a study. We sent about some 10-15 students, MBA students, and one faculty member. In fact, we spent only 5,000 rupees for that. They were there about 5 or 6 days. They contacted people And then we finally told them, based on the study, you do only one thing, you don't worry about anything, you start your own auction center. Let Hindustan Lever be there, and they are now dominating the traditional auction market. You local producers, local farmers, you promote your own auction center. It is permissible. So they promoted one auction center, and they started selling their tea in that center, and their own people were buying. Ooty representative, they were buying. Prices increased, and finally they decided to sell tea in their own name. In fact, they promoted a company called Nilgiris Marketing, and they developed a brand for it. That brand was called Nilma brand. They decided to give tea to the consumer something less than 30 rupees to the prevailing price. Hindustan Lever tea was selling at some price. These people were giving price lesser price, 20 rupees, 30 rupees lesser. But to the farmers they were giving 2 rupees, 3 rupees higher per kg tea leaf. They were all very happy. All this was possible because we spent just 5,000 rupees and about 10 students and one faculty member went there. In fact, while we were discussing this, the Ooty tea industry people, they were telling us, sir, when we faced this problem, originally about 5 years back, we invited one big consultant, foreign consultant, KPMG. We invited them to study and suggest solution to us. They came here, sir, and they spent about a week with us, sir. And after spending a week with us, they went back to Chennai. And after a few days, they sent report to us. You see the report, for which we spent 10 lakhs of rupees. And from that report, we could not understand anything, sir. And still, this report is there. If you want, you can read this, because we can't read and then understand anything out of it. You read them. So they spent 10 lakhs to a foreign consultant, no result, but we spent just 5,000 rupees for the study. And then the farmers were able to benefit. In fact, from 2 rupees price, it increased to 6 rupees within a period of 6-7 months. So farmers were very happy. We did not spend much. And the entire study was done by students. So the point is, if you involve locally, because you all come from the local areas, you know what your father is doing, uncle is doing, or neighbor is doing, you can go study and then you can provide solutions. Solutions don't come from outside. A foreign educated fellow cannot come and provide solutions to India's industries. It can come only from us. So you can go very easily and do that. So this kind of studies which this kind of studies that we are encouraging here through our Center for Indian Economic and Culture Studies. So that is why I want to emphasize this particular point, that as youngsters, there are many people who are studying here. There are some faculty members. There is a college promoter. He has 3 institutions. So if all of you join in this, all of you try to think along this line, then these are very easily achievable. In fact, this is what we have been doing in the last 10-15 years. And for me, we have grown enormously because of these studies. Our entire outlook has changed because of these studies. The way we look at our society, our economy will change only when you start studying from this perspective. Because, for about 20 years, we remain tuned to our textbooks. And when you come to the college level, higher education level, all our textbooks prescribe only the Western theories, which can no longer be practiced here. Because all those theories were developed for those countries, based on their conditions. So it may not be relevant to us. In fact, it is not relevant to us. In fact, immediately after the economic collapse in the West, 2008, in 2009, while analyzing the failure of Western economies, one Nobel laureate by name Paul Krugman, he himself is an economic professor. He is a modern economist. He openly wrote, whatever we have been giving out as theories during the last 30 years, it has proved to be failure. It has proved to be a failure. So he openly admitted, a Nobel laureate and economist himself, he openly admitted the past 30 years of economic theories have been proved to be failure. So this is how now many of the Western economic process, management process, they are openly saying that their system, their theories, their models are not suitable, not just for us, even in their own situation. In this situation, many of the success stories in India that is emerging now clearly indicate that there is an Indian system. In fact, there are many Indian systems of functioning, whether it is business systems, economic systems, or management systems. There are local systems. And it is these systems which we have to study. Because whether we study or not, these systems are functioning. But we have to recognize it. Once we recognize, we will also understand. Certainly, we can help in the growth of the economy. Now, in the last 3 years, many of you may not know, many of the foreign universities are coming here. And some of them have started to look at India from the Indian perspective. About 2 years back, Kellogg University professors, one of the best management universities in the West, in America, they came here and then studied about the leadership in India. They contacted all the 100 top chief executives of India, including Reliance, State Bank of India, Birla's, Tata's, etc. And they have written a book. The title of the book is Leadership, the Indian Way. And in that book, when they conclude, they say, the Indian leadership approach is totally different from that of the Western approach because the social and cultural fundamentals of India are different from that of the other countries. So it is the fundamentals of social fundamentals and cultural fundamentals that are driving our economy. It is high time that we studied it. So I request all of you through this forum to think along these lines, and we are here to help you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof.Kanagasabapathy. It was a wonderful lecture. We'll move on to the next session. May I invite Ramachandranji and Dr. Srinivasan to come over to the dais. There was a short French docu movie where what you call a person who just loafs around visiting on a bridge. He sees a small child coming over. He sees a small child coming over there, and he calls the child and gives a mug of chocolate. The child is very happy and he says, "How can I pay you back?" The man says, "You did not pay me back. When you are big enough and when you can afford, give this chocolate to somebody who deserves it." This is, he calls it pay forward. What Professor Kanagasabapathy spoke and what Dr. Srinivasan is going to speak is something about paying forward. What you pay forward to the society. The type and the topic of today's session with Dr. Srinivasan is caste taste of India. And Dr. Srinivasan will be introduced by Ramachandranji. Ramachandran is the CEO of RRG Staffing and HR consultant. He is a Swadeshi enthusiast, a social entrepreneur. He has developed a village called Lekari near the southern part of Tamil Nadu on his own will, and he has put in a very full effort to bring up the image of the village in the rural economic form. I request him to introduce Dr. Srinivasan.
Lord Krishna declares that I have created this according to the guna, sattva guna, raja guna, tamo guna, and according to the deed, karma, I have created this Chandravana Maya system. Maya system means it is done by me. So, that is the expression of God. And our Suresian expression of caste is, it's a social capital. That's what our Gurumurti used to say. Now, taste means, when we take a laddu, we understand that taste. If you ask you to express what is taste, it's very difficult to tell, but we understand the taste. The laddu becomes the source of knowledge. And what we gain out of that is become knowledge.